Hello and welcome to the Strategic Bookkeeper podcast. As I record this intro, I am a cat's whisker away from jumping into our implementer. So I run an implementer fortnightly. Can't wait to get into this one. We've got a focus right now and it's called the 100K Revenue Accelerator, because what I coach on in the Strategic Bookkeeper is the brand marketing and selling. My right hand, the amazing Joe McMahon, trains on the back end business administration. So can't wait to jump into that today as we all work to build another 100K in revenue in our bookkeeping practice in the next 6 months. But I digress, because this episode is not about that. This episode is actually a conversation with Kelly Berger. So I'll tell you a bit about Kelly first, and then I'll tell you what you can expect. So the way that I'd like to tell you about Kelly is a bit about how we work together in this synergy that we have. Look, Kelly is like a veteran bookkeeper. I feel like she came out of the womb doing it, right? She's been doing it forever. She is multi-award winning, especially recognized as a mentor to other bookkeepers. So she is an award-winning bookkeeper, recognizing her work as a mentor. Her passion is to support bookkeepers with technical ability, okay? And that's where the synergy between us comes in, because where she supports bookkeepers with gaps in their knowledge, to make sure they've got the technical skill to build more and more technical skill and to support them in that way. I'm passionate about helping technically skilled bookkeepers with brand, marketing, selling, and end-to-end business administration, because primarily what I sell is a licensed membership program that helps you to run your practice, right? So to start a practice, if you haven't yet started it, and to run your practice, okay? So at the Strategic Bookkeeper, we help you with some of the technical stuff, but that's not our focus. This is Kelly Berger's focus, okay? So that's why there's such a great synergy between us, and I advocate heavily for what Kelly does, and the same, Kelly advocates for what I do as well. In fact, when Kelly and I first met and we caught up, it was really exciting because Kelly prefers to stick to that technical side, whereas my passion will always be brand marketing and selling. So we work so well together. Now, I want to let you know that Kelly runs Bookkeepers Support Australia. It is a Facebook group that at the time of doing this intro has about 9,000 members. You can also find her at bookkeepersupport.com.au. And even though she's based in Australia, in terms of double entry accounting, that's the same all over the world. So outside of our tax system, Kelly is also very happy to support bookkeepers anywhere in the world as well, while her primary focus is Australia. Okay, for me, because we're not focusing as much on the technical, we support bookkeepers all over the world without any barrier. I can tell you right now, brand marketing and selling for bookkeepers and even end-to-end standard operating procedures are the same for everyone all over the world. Australia, New Zealand, Canada, America, the UK, they're the primary countries that we are serving bookkeepers, and what we do is same, okay? So in this conversation, let me tell you what you can expect. So as bookkeepers, we always need to make sure, and depending on what country you're in, it's going to be a bit different for you, right? But we need to make sure that we are compliant with the regulations that we come under. So Kelly's going to talk to us about new legislation in Australia, still great no matter where you are. She's going to talk about implementing quality management systems. This is the big buzz in the bookkeeper community right now in Australia as I record this. It's called QMS. So she's going to dive into that with me, into technical support and other things. We're going to talk catch-up work, rectification work, complex files, and we're going to celebrate the recent launch of Kelly's membership program, which I think is excellent. She gives you options whether you are early on, startup, you're a newbie. So she's got like a starter membership, a mid-range membership, and a more high-end membership, and the prices are amazing, and it covers you for all your continued professional education requirements. So we are going to celebrate the launch of that membership, which once again, when she announced it, and she was at a conference when she announced it, I was so impressed with what she's put out there. So yeah, definitely want to celebrate Kelly for that one. Now that I've rattled on for a while, why don't you join me in the episode so we can have some fun with Kelly? I'm Jeannie Savage, the strategic bookkeeper. I've been in practice for 14 years, but more importantly, 5 years in, I achieved a lifestyle practice. This means I scaled my business, could take my hands off the wheel, and draw a nice six-figure income while being time rich. And that's what I call my dream on my terms. I was recently awarded Women in Finance Innovator of the Year, recognizing my book, my podcast, my program, and my impact globally. The strategic bookkeeper is my life's work, and the opportunity to help bookkeepers globally achieve the income and lifestyle that sets them free absolutely fills my cup. Please do connect with me on socials at the Strategic Bookkeepers Way private Facebook group, or shoot me an email, hello@thestrategicbookkeeper.global. Okay, so on the podcast today, we have Kelly Berger. I feel like we're way overdue getting Kelly on. And Kelly and I work very closely. The way our synergy works is that at the Strategic Bookkeeper, and very much in my signature program, the transformation program, I'm focused around helping technically skilled bookkeepers. Okay, so you come to me, you've got your technical skills. I help you with brand marketing, selling, end-to-end business management administration. Whereas a lot of bookkeepers who join my tribe, we have two camps, startup and in practice. And regardless of where they're at, and for every bookkeeper out there, every one of us, we've all got gaps in our knowledge. We all need to build a team of support around us, absolutely, that can make sure we don't end up freaking out, having an anxiety attack. It's horrible. And so Kelly goes deep down that rabbit hole of supporting bookkeepers on all things technical. So there's our little dream team match, our synergy. So I'm going to start by asking Kelly to tell you a bit about who she is, all that jazz.
Thanks, Jeannie. Always good to speak to you. I am Kelly Berger from Bookkeepers Support. The whole premise of my entire business is literally support of the bookkeepers in the industry. And that's from the very beginning, from finishing your Cert 4 or finishing your initial training to all the way through to starting your own practice and management and things like that. But my primary focus at the moment is around technical knowledge. So that would be around, balancing to the balance sheet. That is around how to code entries, how to fix jobs, how to work around the information you've got in a balance sheet and a profit and loss, and figuring out what steps do I need to do next to make sure the books are clean. So I do a lot around that, a lot of coaching, a lot of mentoring, and a lot of support. And I've got a new membership website, which I'm really excited about. And that goes more into the technical and more into the one-on-one time. So you actually get office hours with me on a weekly or fortnightly basis, depending on the package that you get. And that means you can pick my brain about anything technical that you like.
And just a little side note, I know that we're talking about Australia today. So it's like technical support for Australian bookkeepers. However, I'd encourage you to keep listening if you're overseas, because there's just going to be lots of really interesting stuff relevant to you. It might just not be as heavily legislated. So I'll just encourage everyone, if you're not already in the Bookkeepers Support Group Australia Facebook group, there's like 8,000 or so people in there. Encourage you to jump on there. You'll see Kelly in there, you'll see me in there, and that way you can ask any questions you've got. And so, and also Kelly's website. So we have got bookkeepersupport.com.au. If you go on there, I would encourage you to try and get on Kelly's email list. When you join Bookkeeper Support Facebook, you'll get that opportunity. But just so that after today's episode, you can stay connected. And absolutely, I am really excited about Kelly's new memberships that she announced recently. And I love that she has one for starters, because we all are passionate about startup bookkeepers and the stress they go through. I hear it honestly every day of the week. And don't worry, we've all been there. We've all had massive gaps in our knowledge. And then Kelly's got the advanced and the complex as well. So next, what we're going to do is we are going to dive into a little bit in terms of the legislative changes that have happened in Australia that have got a lot of us a little bit wound up. So what I'm going to do first is just ask Kelly. We would be here for hours if we went on too much about it, but she's going to tell you a bit about what's happening and what she's going to talk about today, so that in a broader sense, you can try and avoid the overwhelm and understand what to do, how to get started, and how to get support. So yeah, Kelly, if you could just tell us, what's happening and what would you love to share?
Okay, so we had new legislation that was put through in June of 24. Now we have to be completely compliant with the new code of conduct as per the Tax Practitioners Board. They're our regulator for those not in Australia. And as per those regulations, they have asked us to create a quality management system, which is all your policies, your procedures and processes, so that you have it across the board for everyone who works for you. And it also makes sure that, there's continuity with your clients, continuity with the compliance and legalities. So it's about trying to make sure that you're compliant and that you are meeting client expectations as well as meeting legal obligations. So that is what it's about. It's also about creating extra checklists and things like that, so that your staff are having that continuity of what they're doing. The laws come into place. You have to be done and ready to go by the 30th of June. Now, the QMS is a very long, arduous document, and I am running live implementation sessions to help people put those in place. Now, you don't have to be in Australia to necessarily have a QMS. I do recommend a quality management system no matter where you are. It states the policy, the procedure that matches that policy. So if anything happens, this is what we do. So the policy is why, and the procedure is how we do it and how we match that policy. So that's the big thing that's happening at the moment, along with having work papers and things that are implemented within your practice, which is something that accountants have been doing for years, but bookkeepers have not. So those are where we're challenged at the moment. And then you've got the anti-money laundering laws, which were passed in December of 2024, and that may affect you as well. But I'm not going to dive into that because it's a whole big rabbit hole in itself. Be aware that you need to have a QMS system in place, and you need to have all your processes, your checklists and everything in place before 30th of June to be compliant. It's pretty much it.
Okay. So yeah, honestly, I didn't know anything about the anti-money laundering. So now I'm like, okay. And so you need the QMS to cover that as well, correct?
Yeah, the QMS will cover that, but the AML laws are not set for regulation until March 26. So we have a bit of time
Yeah.
to get more information, because at the moment, none of the associations are saying anything. Nobody is saying anything about it. But from my understanding, after reading the actual legislation, it is going to come into effect, and it is going to affect bookkeepers. So yeah, I'm just waiting on further clarification as to what needs to happen from here.
Yeah, that's really interesting because, like many bookkeepers, we've always been really keen on standard operating procedures and quality management systems. And we have some really, I guess, what I'd call blanket ones, right? So, for example, we have these 10 norms, and one of them is never knowingly engage in tax fraud, right?
Yeah.
Which reminds me of rules we had for my son, right? We had these 5 rules, but one was always do what mum says, right?
I like that rule.
Yeah. And it's so funny because the psychologist got him to come up with the rules, but I'd already come up with them. I know. So it was like she coached him. But it's funny how sometimes it feels like you can have, a rule or a policy that applies to so many things. But look, I'll be keenly interested to see what comes through on money laundering, because while we have the whole never knowingly engage in tax fraud, and it's a nice one because even though it's really broad, it helps us. Like I remember once having this really lovely client, and actually I kind of knew him through school circles and that, and he just decided not to comply with our payroll tax, right? It was like, no, I'm not going to do that. And I was like, I get it. Like, I get that it's annoying and you want to do your own thing. I just need to issue a letter to myself from you. And we're not going to do. Yeah. And he's really polite. Like I said, look, I can't do your bookkeeping anymore because it's not something I can do. But I think I really like having that ability to, like, I don't need to judge the client or get angry with them. It's just about really saying, this is how I do business. These are my obligations. And also, I didn't really like his accountant seemed dodgy. And again, the minute I smell
Yeah.
dodgy, you know what I mean? The minute I go, I don't want to be attached to this, it's just better for me to say, look, totally get your direction, just doesn't work for me. Let's do a couple of letters between us so that I can just back out of your account, but you can assure me you'll get compliant on your own time. I don't want to be involved in this anymore. So sometimes those QMSs, they're a nice way to manage yourself, right?
Yeah, they are. And the thing is that, our industry is putting the boot in, so to speak, to say you need to keep your clients in check and you need to keep others accountable. So, accountants and BAS agents and everything. So now we have to hold everybody accountable for their actions. So that means the business owner, the accountant, ourselves, and this is the QMS. This is to keep us all accountable. And what we're finding is that there's a lot more fraud going on because it's not necessarily going on, it's being caught. A lot more fraud is being caught because of these new rules. I don't have a problem with the new rules and the new legislation at all. And in this cybersecurity age, it's really critical to do what we need to do. And with the AMLs, part of it is the proof of identity. And we're already doing that as part of our QMS anyway. So there hopefully won't be too many changes to bring in when the AML hits. But we still need to hold people accountable. And that's the hard part because we've got to say, no, we cannot work like this. And clients are still going to push for it. And so now we're going to have to say, well, I'm glad you're pushing for that, but it's not going to happen and I need to walk away. And that's what we have to do. If we know that they're going to do something illegal, we need to walk away. Or if they do something illegal and they're not willing to fix it, we may actually have to alert the authorities. And I don't think clients understand that at the moment. And that's really hard for us because we're like, we have to dob you in. Like, we don't have a choice. We've got a legal obligation here. So, yeah, it's a whole different space now.
Yeah, it is. And I think like a couple of things I'll point out before I get you to elaborate on a few things is one of our core values is empathy. And I really encourage all bookkeepers to adopt that value. And I'll explain why in a second. The other one is if you really learn to, and this is important for startups, you can smell these clients at the beginning, right?
Yes. Oh, yeah, absolutely. You can see the dodginess. You just have to acknowledge it.
Yeah, from day one. And then the third thing is that I work a lot with my bookkeepers inside my tribe. It's usually far more effective to have dialogue, like conversations, than it is to send emails because they're monologues, right? And someone was saying to me the other day, because I said end of month queries, I just get on the phone and have a nice little chat to the client, but it gives me an opportunity to seek to understand, right? So for example, this wonderful bookkeeper said, if you've got 20 outstanding bills, like you can't match them, then that's a lot to go through on the phone. And I said, but wouldn't we be making a phone call to say, just tell me why you didn't submit them? Do you know what I mean? So that they can say, well, I'm so busy, and you go, totally get it. You know that little software you've got, Dext? Is there a reason that you're not using that? Well, it just takes me too long. And you can say, well, actually, it doesn't because I use it. and then you can say, let's go on a journey of 12 weeks where we help you and also have the opportunity to say, look, the government's brought in all these new regulations and, just really, again, take the time to educate that client. And that's where the empathy comes in. Do you know what I mean? Because Kelly, one of our beautiful bookkeepers, she had a client come through, and I think this is so important for people to understand. And the client appeared really non-compliant, right? They were paying their wife without an invoice, and the accountant was letting it all go and making out like it was fine. And the bookkeeper was like, Jeannie, I don't think I can work with this person. And I said, yeah, but how about you have a conversation and put to them, look, I get you doing all the things you're doing now. You may not realize that they could all get you into real hot water. And doing it the right way is not actually harder. It just means I need to explain it to you. We need to make some changes and everything will be sweet. So she had this conversation, and at the beginning, she'd assumed that this client was going to do the wrong thing. The client actually was like, Thank you so much. I had no idea. Nobody has ever told me any of this. I'm so
Mhm.
grateful. Would you help me get compliant? Right?
Yes, and I hear that all the time. I mean,
You?
I'm supervising new bookkeepers in the industry to become registered BAS agents, and I speak to their clients in one of the first meetings we have to one, identify them for, proof of identity. But the other side of it is to make sure that they understand that if my mentoree is asking for things, it's because of the legalities and the compliance, and it's because I'm asking them to do that. And so that's something I'm very upfront about in the beginning. Do you understand your obligations and why you have to get it right for your mentoree? Because you are putting their license at risk and, well, their potential license at risk, but also my license at risk. Because for those not in Australia, we actually have to be licensed, and that puts us at risk. So it's really about making sure that everybody is across everything and knows what they need to do. And if they don't know how to do it, well, we go, okay, your mentor, my mentoree, and your bookkeeper can set up systems to help you. Are you open to that?
Yes.
And you just have that conversation, because some of them don't know that they're doing the wrong thing. And so someone like us comes in and goes, did you know you shouldn't be doing that? So
Yeah.
it is about
Yeah.
education, and it is about that conversation, absolutely. But if you've been working with them for 6 to 12 months and you've been saying the same thing over and over again, then you've got to cut it off. You've just got to go, no, you're not doing the right thing. We have had this conversation many times. I'm done.
Yes. Yeah, definitely. And I know we had another client where one of my girls, she said, "Oh, Jeannie," and it was a bigger client, and the staff were doing some of the wrong things and they'd had some staff turnover. But she said, "Oh, it's tax fraud." And when I looked at it, I said, "Well, number one, it's not really tax fraud, it's just a bad procedure. And number two, it's only tax fraud if the owner knows it's happening. And if the owner doesn't even know and you bring it to their attention and they say, 'Oh my goodness, somebody help me,' isn't that a business trying to do the right thing?" And she allowed me to tell it to her because I said, "I want to help these businesses." She went back to them. They just said yes to everything. They were like, "Whatever you tell us to do, we're going to do it. And we're just so happy to have the help." And they said to her, "Can you just work 40 hours a week at $100 an hour?" And she was like, "No, I'm a mum." But they let her go and recruit a proper bookkeeper to work internally, to work side by side with her. And she said she just never would have thought to ask the question. She was really scared when she saw the non-compliance rather than actually saying, "Would you like the help to be compliant?" So I really hope that this is a lesson for everyone.
Yeah, absolutely. Have those conversations. And if those conversations don't change the behavior, then move on. But if that conversation can help them and help them move forward in the correct manner, then yeah, let them, because business owners need all the help they can get, and they don't understand they need the help until somebody points it out and goes, did you know? So, they're not bookkeepers, they're not BAS agents, they're not, that's not their jam. So how are they supposed to know all the legalities unless you tell them?
Yes, I completely agree. I mean, that's why we find recruitment's a good advisory service because sometimes for these bigger businesses or even smaller, recruiting either an admin, like an admin that can just do
Yeah.
some of that grunt work, and also teaching them that what I've found is saying, look, you've got these in-house people and they're lovely, but they're accounts clerks and they're
Yep.
administrators. They're not bookkeepers. So I know that they've royally F things up, but it's
Yes.
probably because they don't know what they're doing, and you didn't know that a bookkeeper is a double entry accounting clerk, and they love it. So we're like, is it your team's fault? Maybe not. Is it your fault? Not either. But let's
No.
just get you educated and get you that support.
And a lot of accounts and admin people come into it, raw, and they're like, oh, I didn't know, because they didn't do the education that we did. They didn't do the amount of hours. For those not in Australia, we have to do 1,400 hours of experience. And some of their experience is actually quite limited in, their role. So they're doing a very specific, maybe AP or AR role. So they don't really
Yep.
get the full gamut either. So the skill sets really need to be enforced in those instances, but they need to be taught. And if you've got an admin accounts person that's, been thrown in the deep end, then you need to help them to do better, because they don't know.
Yeah, exactly. And Kelly, one of the things that we love doing is with our clients, they either get full service bookkeeping Or it's like, okay, you can do a lot of the day-to-day yourself, therefore we'll make you a DIY support. We still charge a minimum $300 a week for that, even if it's hardly any time. But it does mean, for example, when you've got the payroll, we say to our clients, you've got two options. You can either do the payroll, we do the heavy lifting, or we do both, but you don't do the heavy lifting. Like you're not going to do new starters, termination, superannuation, because you press one button wrong at the beginning or in the middle, and it will be an absolute nightmare for you, for us, for everyone. So I think for all the bookkeepers out there, just remembering that you can offer up this beautiful DIY bookkeeper support package to support the admin, to support the wife, to support whoever, charge a minimum $300 a month, even if it's 15 minutes. On that, please listen to episode 75, 6, 7 of my podcast to find out more just on pricing. But I think a lot of bookkeepers are missing opportunities there and doing too many quick queries when they should be charging well for that DIY support.
Absolutely. And while you're doing that DIY support, you're supporting them in being compliant, but you're also teaching that person that they can do the work, but, leave the complexities to us, because it is complex here in Australia, and it is the superannuation and the payroll and, the copious amounts of awards for payroll and things like that. So it is a minefield here compared to other countries that are very simplified. So, yeah, I do recommend getting someone who can support and train at the same time. But I mean, I do a lot of training anyway, and I'm being picked up by accountancy firms to train their junior accountants and their bookkeepers, because they're coming straight out of school and they don't have the practical knowledge they need to be able to step up. And I love that part, because, they're learning and they're actually doing the right thing by their clients. So it's a win-win for everybody.
Yeah. And now I would love to just ask you, I want to explain a bit more about how you can help bookkeepers, whether you're a startup, whether you're in practice, and go a little bit into that rabbit hole, because I know you've got your memberships and I know a bit about them, but I don't fully know everything either. So talk to us about how you help. Let's start with startups. Like you're a startup bookkeeper, or you're in that first year. God, do you remember that? When you're like, oh my Lord, there's all these things to do and I'm meant to be the all-knowing, all-powerful Wizard of Oz. You're not. So how can you support those bookkeepers with gaps in their knowledge, where I want them to go and win all the work, go and win it. Don't worry if you don't have all the technical skill, because I want them to understand how, Kelly, you can help them with that kind of thing.
Yeah, look, absolutely. So the type of things that we talk about in, say, the basic membership. So we'll go through things like, what's cost of goods versus expense. We'll go through understanding, we do lunch and learns and things like that. We do current versus non-current, so your liabilities, your assets. We do balance sheets, how to fix them or how to balance to the balance sheet, understanding trial balance, those kind of things we try and keep into the basic area, because we know that sometimes in practicality, you don't remember these things. So having it in the basic area means that everybody who has the basic membership, or even the two higher up, they have access to that basic information, because you know what, we forget. Sometimes we go through life, we have clients, specific clients, and then a new client in a new industry comes on and you're like, oh my God, what do I do for this client? I have no idea. Right. And most people don't work with inventory. So cost of goods versus expenses is really critical in that respect. So those type of things are all in that membership site, and it's, $19 a month or something. I can't remember. Sorry. And then we go into the more complex and advanced, and that's understanding things like the trial balance. That's understanding staff. That's understanding regulatory requirements. That's motor vehicle loans. But we also go into the understanding not to burn out and things like that. So there's a lot of wellness stuff, but there is a lot of technical stuff and understanding what you're doing. Now, people from overseas can jump on the basic one, because cost of goods and expenses doesn't change. Current versus non-current doesn't change across the board. It's accounting principles and those type of things. And then when we get further up, we go into managing clients and bringing them on board and those type of things, and staff management. So you can, from any country, join us. Absolutely.
Exactly.
Because I'm not looking at something necessarily specific to Australia, except for the payroll regulations. That's probably about it.
Great. I mean, your top tier is only $99 a month?
Yeah, it's only
Yeah.
$99 a month. And on the top tier, you've got access to the fortnightly hour session with me. And then once you go to advanced, you've got an extra hour. So you basically got me for an hour a week to jump on board and ask me anything, right, for a whole
Really?
hour. Yep, a
Wow,
whole
just like an open coaching. Okay, amazing.
hour.
So you've got the starter at 19. How much is the
Yep.
advanced?
Think the advanced is about 49.
Yeah, I thought so. 49.99. And for everyone out there, I don't know if I'm stating the obvious, but in Australia, we have to have our CPD points. So this will
Yes,
give you all your CPD. So a few more
yes.
questions. BAS agent supervision. Tell us about how you help with that.
Yeah, so in Australia, you need to have 1,400 hours of experience. And what we're finding is that people can't get experience from being an employee. People are not employing, or they have restrictions on them and they need to work from home. So they're not able to be an employee. So what I do is I have a program where I support them in getting those 1,400 hours by them having their own clients. So by them having their own clients, I've got full access to their client files. I've got full access to them. I also charge directly for the BAS lodgement and things like that because that goes through me. But I also have a program that they have to do, and that is all about, your GST basics and all the things that we've been talking about in the membership area. But it's also about getting their systems up and running, making sure they've got the client onboarding down pat, make sure that they've got their systems in place. We do once a month training. So we've already done BAS reconciliation. This month we're actually doing QMS implementation. There's so much learning in there, and it's a 12-month minimum spend for the pre-supervision program. For 12 months,
Yep.
it's 125 a month, but you get that group training once a month, and you also get access to the active program, which is, it's kind of like you do 30 hours on the back end of work. You come together with me, we go through everything, make sure everything is true and correct and compliant, and then I sign off on those full 30 hours for the 110 that I charge at the moment. So yeah,
Yeah.
and I bill your client direct for any lodgements. It's a very cost-effective way of people to get their own clients and to build their own business, but they've also got me for 100% support, and they can book in at any time with me for the 110, and we can go through whatever problem they're having with their client as well, which means a lot of rescue work and stuff.
And that's separate to the membership?
Yes, that's separate to the
Okay.
membership.
Okay. Do you offer anything where, because I get asked this one a lot, especially when you're doing catch-up rectification work, which is like some of my favorite work. I love it. If there
I
was
know, I
only
love it.
one, and most bookkeepers are like, you crazy person. If there was only one kind of job I ever did again, maybe it's my problem-solving brain, it would catch-up rectification. But when you are early in that first couple of years in your practice and you haven't been fully exposed to all this, it's kind of like, don't try this at home alone, kids, because you'll break something. Do you offer any, I guess, consulting where you just do that one-on-one that's to do with that catch-up rectification client file and you get paid that fee just to go, okay, here's what we're looking at, here's what I need to tell you, so that either throughout the job, and of course that acquired knowledge is going to build over time and give them what they need to become like you and I are with catch-up rectification. Do you do anything
Yeah.
in that space?
Yeah, I do one-on-one training, so it's 175 for the hour, but we try and get through as much as possible and note down all of the rabbit holes to go down because, as you know, it is a rabbit warren. You go find one problem and you're led to another and another and another. So I help with finding those issues and telling them which accounts they need to look into, where they should rectify first, where they should start, what notes they should be taking. And we go through it together so that they've got a good start and they're like, okay, well, I need to fix this, this, and this. And they know exactly where they're going. So, yeah, I do that. And that's the one-on-one training area. And then I've got the mentoring and coaching, which is more about business management side of things. So that's helping them, from a management perspective of systems and processes and those kind of things. But the one-on-one training is the 175.
Okay, great. And for anyone listening with that, what I'm going to recommend is that, so you go out, you see a client, most clients come to you with some form of catch-up rectification to do. What I want you to do in Australia right now, and actually usually this formula works for all over the world. So we are mid-April 2025 as we record this. If you're not charging at least $100 an hour, you're making less than you could in award wages because you've got to deduct all your expenses and things. Now, where Kelly charges 175, for your catch up with that first block of work, which is generally about 10 hours, but you've got your senior or you've got your less senior bookkeeper that potentially could be doing it. If you package it up, so you say, look, the first block contains what we need to do in that first block. We need to look at your work and we need to have a really thorough look through it. And then we need to make a plan. So the planning phase of catch up rectification is probably the most critical. And we absolutely charge more for that first block because there's so much planning. So, for example, in my practice, we've been charging about $1,300 for that first block because it allows us to plan. Now, if you're going to work with Kelly and you know that you want to budget in a couple of hours of her support, then budget it into that productized service that I talk about in my books so that you go, okay, I want $1,000 for the first 10 hours, but I want to bundle in, let's call it $350 to get some support from Kelly. Then you know it's going to be $1,350 plus GST, and that you know that you can book Kelly on your team and get that support. You absolutely should be doing that, right?
Yeah. And if you've never used Xero or Mild or QBO, I use all of them. So it doesn't matter the package. I can absolutely help you fix whatever they've done in the program. And believe me, I've seen some doozies in my life.
Right. Pandora's
I've seen
box.
some with balance sheets. Oh my goodness.
I love that you touched on the software. You know, one of our members, she was a startup, right? And just the poor love, overwhelmed. And she was trying to figure out all the software. And finally, I said, just get on with Joe. Spend an hour with Joe. And she said she learnt more in an hour than 10 hours muddling through. And I think this is the thing, isn't it? Like an hour with you
Will
versus
save
all
them
that.
so much time because then if you're a mild person and you're going into Xero cold, you're like, oh my God, where do I find things? So I can explain, okay, there's your spend money, there's your receive money. This is how the bank feeds work in here. This is where you find the general journals. You've also got a wonderful find and recode, which will help you in a rescue job. And, QBO also have some great new features to be able to do that fixing work as well. And a lot of people don't know that. So yeah, definitely jump on with me and I can help you with the software and I can help you fix the balance sheet and make sure the P&L is correct and all that stuff.
Great. And I'm assuming you can record those for them as well.
Yeah. Yep,
Amazing.
absolutely. I can record them and send them through to them. Or if they want to put on their own note taker, if they want to put on their own video, then we can absolutely do it that way as well. So it's entirely up to you what you want to
Okay,
do. I'm
great.
very
And I'll mention that Kelly and I are going to run an event together soon. So jump on Bookkeeper Support Group Australia to find out about that because we'll post it at some stage. I think the last thing I'd love to ask you is I know we hear bookkeepers a lot talk about overwhelm. In terms of legislation and everything that's happening right now, what would be your top 1, 2, or 3 tips, even relevant to what you can do to help them avoid that sick feeling?
yes.
Yeah, that
That,
you
oh
can
my God,
get.
I need to get it done. Look, honestly, just book in and get it done. Be proactive, be at the forefront, and don't wait till last minute. Now, I am ADHD. I wait till the last minute with everything. So I understand, and it gives me that urgency. But if you know that the deadline is coming up fast, I've got about I think 4 more sessions of live implementation, which I can help you with in my event section of my page. So, you can book in and do that, but I give you other things along with the QMS. So it's not just the QMS, it's other checklists and things as well. But I do recommend getting on top of it ASAP and getting it out of the way because then you'll feel a lot better if you can just get it out of the way. I mean, our industry is always pummeled with something new. So the quicker you get onto it, quicker it's in place, the quicker you can move forward and just go, okay, I can just focus on clients then. But I do recommend getting it done and dusted. And yeah, it's the only way to keep it out of your brain.
Okay, so be proactive. And I will let everyone know because I'm on Kelly's website now. So when you go to bookkeepersupport.com.au, you've got lots of things there. And like I said, you can join the Facebook group. But if you're wanting to get the new membership, you go to Pro Membership, scroll down, and you've got your 3 levels there. But you can also reach out and ask Kelly anything you like.
Yeah. Look, I've got a 15-minute free in the services section. So, you can book in for that and you can just pick my brain and just say, I don't even know where to go. And I can certainly help you in the right direction with that too.
Oh, that's so cool. I didn't know you had that. And I know you're
Yeah.
a busy lady, so that's awesome. Miss Kelly Berger, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. So that was fun. That was awesome.
Thanks, Jeannie. Always love it.
Okay, my friend, now it is time to take action. So, what are you going to do with what you learned today? The way I see it, you've got two options. You can go it alone to try and save some money, or you can back yourself and go for it and join my tribe. And let me tell you, we are knocking it out of the ballpark. That's not a sales pitch. That is me serving you, dare I say, courageously. To find success, I 100% know you need the mechanics, which is like the keys to the kingdom, but you also need to get your mindset right and be super productive. And these are all things I help you with inside the program. I could go on about this forever because I really want this for you. Have a prosperous week, and I'll see you in the next episode.